The 8th of May, 2026, the United States Department of War quietly turned on a website. The address is war.gov/UFO. On it, you can now scroll through decades of files the American government had been holding back. Infrared footage of objects moving in ways nothing in our skies should move. Internal Pentagon memos. Eyewitness reports from military pilots. Apollo mission photographs of unidentified shapes drifting past the lunar horizon. Tonight, we are going to do something the news cycle will not do. We are going to walk back through the global record, century by century, and ask a harder question than the one being asked on cable news today. Not, are aliens real? The honest question. The one historians actually deal with. What did people see? What did they actually write down? And which of those records hold up? The year is 74 BC. The Roman general Lucius Licinius Lucullus is marching against the army of Mithridates VI of Pontus in what is today the Iznik region of Turkey. The two armies meet at a place called Ottoman in Phrygia. The Greek biographer Plutarch wrote this account roughly 150 years later, drawing on earlier sources. It survives in his parallel lives, in the section on Lucullus. The passage reads, in the standard Loeb translation, that as the two armies were on the point of joining battle, with no apparent change of weather, the sky burst asunder, and a huge flame-like body fell between the two armies. In shape, it was most like a wine jar. In color, like molten silver. Both armies were astonished and separated. The battle was postponed. Now, the cautious historian's reading is that this is most likely a bolide, a bright meteor breaking up in the lower atmosphere. The color, the shape, the suddenness, all fit. But that is the modern interpretation. What we can say with certainty is that two ancient armies, on opposite sides of a war, both observed something, and it ended up in one of the most reliable biographical works of the classical world. The record is real. The witness is real. The interpretation is open. The year is AD 65. The Roman Jewish historian Flavius Josephus is writing his account of the Jewish War. In Book 6, he records something he says he would have called a fable, except too many witnesses had seen it. The passage reads, in the standard Loeb translation, that before sunset, throughout all parts of the country, chariots were seen in the air and armed battalions hurtling through the clouds, encompassing the cities. The same event is referenced later by the Roman historian Tacitus, and later still by the Christian historian Eusebius. 3 independent sources, one of them the most cited Jewish historian of Antiquity. The cautious modern reading is a fata morgana, an atmospheric mirage at the horizon, refracting distant figures into the sky. As we move into the Middle Ages, the sightings don't stop. They get weirder. In Ireland, the historical chronicles known as the Annals of Ulster recorded a truly bizarre event in the year 749 AD. The monks documented that ships with their crews were seen in the air above Clonmacnoise. They weren't looking at clouds. They described physical ships floating in the sky, manned by beings they couldn't comprehend. Centuries later, in England, the chronicler Gervase of Tilbury wrote an astonishing account in his 1211 book, Otia Imperialia. He recorded that the citizens of Gravesend saw a ship flying above the clouds. An anchor attached to a rope dropped from the ship and got caught on a mound in the local churchyard. Then the villagers watched as a man, a sailor, climbed down the rope to free it. Gervase writes, he was seized by the bystanders, and in their hands he expired, stifled by the breath of our gross air, as a drowning man is stifled in water. A humanoid suffocating in Earth's atmosphere. This is a close encounter of the third kind, recorded in the 13th century. Later, in 1254, the monks of St. Albans Abbey in England recorded an elegant ship, well-equipped and of marvelous color, floating silently across the night sky. Now to Tang Dynasty China. The 13th of September, 817. A court astronomer in the imperial capital files an entry in the official astronomical records. He describes a brilliant object, the size of half a melon, descending slowly in the southern sky. It hovers, then it turns and rises again. These are the same astronomers who logged thousands of meteors. They knew what a shooting star looked like. They had a separate vocabulary for it. This one was filed differently. Basel, Switzerland, the 7th of August, 1566. A printed broadsheet survives in the Wikkiana collection at Zurich's Central Library. It depicts dozens of black spheres rising and falling against a red dawn sky. The text describes panic in the streets. Modern atmospheric scientists read it as a sundog, an ice crystal optical phenomenon at sunrise. The pamphlet is real. The interpretation is the question. Now to Korea. The 22nd of September, 1609. The reign of Prince Gwanghae. The Joseon kings ran what may be the most exhaustive bureaucratic record-keeping operation of the pre-modern world. The Joseon Wangjo Silok, the veritable records. Over 1,700 volumes. Today, on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. On that day, in the eastern provinces, something strange happens. The governor of Gangwon province, a man named Yi Hyung-uk, gathers eyewitness reports from 5 separate counties: Goseong, Wonju, Gangnung, Chuncheon, Yangyang. Same window of time, same description. A round, shining object, about the size of a wash basin, roughly 6 feet across, white on the right side, bluish in the middle, reddish on the left. It moves north. At some point in the afternoon, it splits in two. One piece turns southeast and disappears out to sea. The governor's memorial is preserved today in the Silk. You can pull it up online. The cautious reading, again, is a daylight bowline with multiple fragments. Plausible. What is not plausible is to dismiss the document. 5 separate county officials, in writing, describing the same shape in the same window, in a system designed to be brutal to careless reporting. That is not folklore. That is a state archive. Now, to Russia. Saturday, the 15th of August, 1663. The Feast of the Assumption. Villagers in the Robozero parish, in the Vologda region, are inside the church for Mass when a tremendous noise sounds above them. They run outside. What follows is written down by a literate estate manager named Ivashko. He cross-examines a peasant eyewitness called Levko Fedorov. He gets written confirmation from the local priests. Only then does he file his report to the abbots of the Kirillo-Belozersky monastery. The report sits in the monastery archive for nearly 2 centuries. In 1842, the Russian Archaeographic Commission publishes it. The document, in their official assessment, is beyond doubt authentic. What it describes is a great ball of fire, roughly 130 feet across. It comes from the clear sky to the north. 2 beams of flame project from its front. Bluish smoke pours from its sides. It hovers over the lake for an hour and a half. Peasants in a boat try to row closer. The heat drives them back. Hyogo Province, Japan. The year is 1803. Local fishermen find a sealed metal vessel washed up on the beach. Inside, a foreign-looking woman holding a small box she will not let anyone touch. The story is preserved in 3 separate Edo period manuscripts. It is known as Utsurobune, the hollow ship. Folklorists today read it as a wandering noblewoman from a foreign shipwreck, or as a complete invention. But it is filed 3 times. It exists. Now we come to the case that frankly is one of the strongest and one I particularly wanted to cover because the document is held in a real institutional archive and it has been examined by professional Ottomanists in a peer-reviewed academic journal. In October 1838, in the region around Mardin, in what is today southeastern Turkey, Ottoman soldiers were camped near the city. A heavy storm broke at night. After the storm, witnesses reported a round-shaped bright light filling the horizon before breaking apart and falling toward the earth. a regional Ottoman judge, the Kadi Naibi, filed a formal report. That report traveled up through the Ottoman bureaucracy and ended up eventually in the Oriental Department of the Saints Cyril and Methodius National Library in Sofia, Bulgaria. There it was examined by two scholars, Evgeny Radushev and Orlin Sabev, and published in 2019 in the journal Études Balkaniques under a deliberately careful title. Did the Ottomans see UFOs? The Kadi, lacking any modern vocabulary for an unidentified flying object, reaches for the most familiar round, bright thing in his daily life. He compares it to a sini, a large copper serving tray, the kind families ate from on the floor. The horizon, he writes, lit up as if it were day. People were gripped by fear and turned to prayer. Then the great light broke into pieces and fell to earth. The likely explanation, again, is a major bolide breaking up over Anatolia. The point is not that this proves anything extraterrestrial. The point is that 188 years ago, a regional Ottoman official went through the trouble of writing a formal legal report about something in the sky he could not explain, and that report is still readable today. Zacatecas, Mexico, the 12th of August, 1883. The witness is not a peasant, not a monk, not a judge. He is a professional astronomer. His name is José Bonilla. He is the director of the Zacatecas Observatory. Bonilla is doing routine solar observations through his telescope when something unexpected enters his field of view. He photographs it. Over the course of 2 days, he captures images of, by his own count, hundreds of dark objects passing in front of the disk of the sun. He sends his plates to the French scientific journal L'Astronomie. The editor publishes them with a dismissive note suggesting insects. In 2011, researchers at the National Autonomous University of Mexico revisit the plates. Their conclusion is startling. The objects, whatever they were, almost certainly were not insects. The most plausible explanation, based on the apparent angular sizes, is that Bonilla had captured the fragments of a billion-ton comet that had broken up close to the Earth. The first photographs of an unidentified flying object taken by a professional astronomer in 1883, dismissed for over a century, only partially explained 128 years later. A Roman general, a Jewish historian, Irish monks, a Tang Chinese astronomer, an English chronicler, a Swiss printer, a Korean provincial governor, a Puritan governor, a Russian estate manager, an Ottoman judge, a Mexican astronomer, different empires, different languages, different centuries. None of them reading each other's files, and in every case the same act. Someone trained to observe sees something they cannot name, and they file it formally, in the bureaucratic language of their time. Most of these will turn out to be meteors, mirages, ice halos, ball lightning, the limits of human perception. But some of them, after thousands of years, are still on the open questions list, sitting in archives, waiting. That is not a story about aliens. That is a story about us, about the human refusal to leave the unexplained unrecorded, and the harder fact that after 3 millennia of writing it down, we have not finished explaining it. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel is built for. Hit the like button. It tells YouTube this kind of careful history matters. Share it with the one friend who will actually read the sources. And in the comments, tell me which case stayed with you. Plutarch's wine jar, the Korean memorial, the Mexican astronomer. Subscribe. There is more coming.